Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, as usual, Stephen Stark, and joining me today are the standard co-hosts, Nessie and John.
Hey
And
guys.
you might recognize Betsy, mother of Starks, down there, my mom. She has been on an I Know That Nerd before, but joining us for the first time is sort of like just a panelist. And joining us because we're doing the Umbrella Academy. And she was like, I want to do the Umbrella Academy with you. And I said, okay, maybe. And then there was a whole rebellion that took place behind the scenes. And eventually I caved in to popular pressure. And here she is. So say, everybody, you know Nessie, you know John. For those of you, if you don't know Mom, say hi.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah.
This is Betsy. I'm responsible for that.
Yeah.
Along with
We won't hold it against
his
you.
father. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, yeah, and a lot of good folks here to say hi today, to enjoy the stream. I see Peter Griffin, John St. Baptiste, Lady Leaf Underhill. If Leaf is ever not here, it's because the world has ended, probably. Jolie, Danny McKay, Amy Blackfire in the house, Ridiculous Ed Tollett. I know I saw somebody else. I saw Kelly, the Jaded Redhead. Yeah. Hey, Peadar, welcome back, everyone. All right. So, season 1 of the Umbrella Academy. Will we get to season 2? Yes, we will in 2 weeks. But this week is just season 1, and it's also like full spoilers from the get-go. But I do want to get everybody's sort of like impression off the top, take a couple of minutes to talk about how you felt about it. And we will start with our guest, Mom, aka Betsy. I'm just going to call you Mom because it's weird to call you Betsy.
Works for me. Works for me.
So how did you feel about season 1?
I watched season 1 when it very first came out. And anything that's kind of weird, offbeat, not totally predictable, although there was some predictable moments here and there, I'm probably going to like it. Plus, the fantastic music. I need to sit down and just run through and write down all the music that is played in this show, because it's just spot on. Fantastic. And if it has music in it, I'm going to like it. So there we are.
Right on. John, how did you feel about the Umbrella Academy?
Oh, music. You mean the songs they played throughout, but with a completely unmemorable musical score.
I'm going to argue even that.
Let's see. Unappealing characters who were dull as a doornail. Derivative. I couldn't tell if I was watching X-Men or if I was watching Heroes. I think there was something else thrown in there for good measure. It's not ringing a bell. I found this pretty...
You did not enjoy this, did you?
Nessie, I'm trying to temper things. But it's like, I watched the first episode and I was like, this isn't grabbing me. I thought, well, maybe as the episodes progress, I'll get more involved with the characters, but the characters annoyed me to no end. And what on God's earth did anyone do to poor Ellen Page to stick her with such a lack of good material? I'm sorry. It's like, and going back to the music, the fact that the most memorable piece of music to me was Phantom of the Opera music at the beginning of the show, and that's not even original music. sort of speaks a lot. And normally this type of thing might appeal to me, but what was with the freaking talking ape?
We don't really know yet. We don't really know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I told you.
I think that's enough for the moment.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. I just need to get this out. Okay. I told you guys you were going to be mad at me today. All right. But the thing is, I didn't tell you why you were going to be mad at me.
Okay, why are we going to be mad at you?
Because I'm completely bullshitting you, and I loved every second of
Are
this
you
show.
serious? Oh my God! You know what? Bravo, sir.
Oh, you got me.
Oh my God!
Is it April 1st?
It should be.
He fooled us, didn't he, guys?
I've got goosebumps right now.
I've had this in the work for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know.
High five! High
Bravo.
five! High five!
All right.
John, you
So basically, the opposite of what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like the second I heard them using Phantom of the Opera music in the beginning was like, you guys got me. And then, yes, of course I freaking love Pogo, the talking monkey. Why wouldn't I love him? That's freaking incredible. And the characters, yeah, a lot of them are not great people, but they're super interesting and fun to watch. I do have some small grievances with the material that Ellen Page was given, but you know, there's always got to be a small little bit of criticism. But for the most part, I freaking loved the show. It's like I said, it's derivative of X-Men, so why wouldn't I love it?
Right.
It's like,
I mean, I was prepared to like argue this with you, but
Hargreeves is like the worst version of Professor X you can possibly imagine, and some would argue probably a more accurate depiction of Professor X than we got in the films. So yeah, was like into the show like 30 seconds in. So
John, they loved you, by the way. They loved you.
So yeah.
So Nessie.
Yeah. And hey, wait just a second. I want to say I'm here thinking, and this is the guy that loves Dark Crystal. What is wrong here?
Okay. Well,
Okay, Ness.
I mean, thanks, John, for having me have to follow that phenomenal.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to go next? Do you want me to go next?
No. I'm good with this because this is the part of the episode that I get to say, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. I watched this when it came out. I immediately fell in love with it. And I just love the quirkiness of the characters, the weird camera angles, the overall just gray tone that the entire production has. And then, I mean, that final scenes, come on. I mean, even the special effects were great, especially considering this was like a Netflix production. I didn't really expect like anything super, over the top or whatever, but I mean, boom, boom, boom. Every scene in this had something just weird or funky, or it just grabbed me and just kept my attention the whole way through. And I was like, this is some weird, trippy shit I'm watching. But but I loved it. I loved that wild ride.
I had fellow conspirators.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, for me, I liked it from the get-go, and I liked it for its weirdness. And I will say, like, so the original graphic novel is by Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba. But Gabriel Ba is like the artist, and Gerard Way is the writer. And I've been a fan of his since My Chemical Romance was early back when they became a thing. So as I watched it the first time, I noticed the music, of course, but the second time through, which I just finished this morning, like the music is a character in this series. And John, I know you prefer like the orchestral type score for a lot of things, but I really feel like they chose the right popular music for the right scenes in this. And a lot of time, like the other thing that blew me away, there's about 4 different dance sequences in the first season.
Like the first one.
That
Yeah.
first one with
That
I Think
first
We're Alone
one.
Now. Oh, that is like,
I've never wanted to listen to Tiffany more.
I know, right? Like you could probably teach a class on like storytelling with that scene alone.
Right. Well, and it's so poignant that they're all dancing in different parts of the house to I Think We're Alone Now, showing how they've grown apart. Even when they're all even when they're in the mansion, they're apart. They've really grown apart.
Right. They're
like,
just each in their own little world, doing their own certain dance, just totally segregated from one another.
Well, and each of their dances, like really sort of, you could, because happens in the first episode, but you can learn something about each of them just from watching them dance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Not Klaus. Luther is very sort of like big and clumsy, and he knocks stuff over, and he gets excited. Whereas,
and Diego's popping and locking.
But like he's not as cool as he thinks he is.
Right.
And
that was actually
in like the 80s, but come on, or the 90s.
And that was the first time that I started to get even slightly endeared towards Diego, though. It's like he was the guy who pretty much didn't care how he looks in that moment. He's just sort of giving in to the vibe. And so I did enjoy that.
Even Vanya, like uptight little Vanya, all closed in and cut off, even she's just kind of grooving a little bit, and she's a part of it, even though she's always been outside. Even then, she's like part of the family. It's something that she and they all are participating in, that they could share.
Well, that rivalry between Luther and Diego, having 3 sons, that's a common theme until they became really responsible adults. Everything was always about, I'm stronger, I'm faster, I'm smarter, I'm always something one up on you. It doesn't matter if I'm number 1, 2, or 3. I've got something. And that's how young testosterone works.
Well, I think it was deliberate on their, let's call him their father's part, by numbering them.
Yes.
In every second of every way, he's fostering them to compete against one another, to vie for his, not just his non-existent attention, but his praise. Everything is a competition with him, and the numbers matter.
Well, and really, I think one of the things that the story does so beautifully throughout, I mean, they're all 30 years old. The setting for this is 2019. In theory, there's no computers or cell phones in there 2019.
Right.
Like their technology.
Well, it is a fantasy.
But it looks like technology stopped in the 80s when they were born, even though they'll tell you it's 2019, but there's still newspapers and there's still like payphones on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a payphone in their hallway.
Yeah, I know.
Is anybody clued into that? I mean, I'm just like, what's up with that? There's a payphone in their house in the hallway outside their bedrooms. That's just odd.
Oh, yeah, it makes perfect sense. It wasn't a home.
Anyway, they're all
right.
It was a dorm.
The point I'm trying to make is that they're all people in their 30s, but we're seeing adults who have had a lifetime of abuse heaped upon them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the story does a really great job of showing the different ways people deal with that and go through that, be it numbing themselves emotionally like Vanya does, or turning to drugs the way Klaus does, or Luther trying to be the best of the best of the best at all times just to get that one little shred, or Diego who kind of rejects I'm not trying to prove to you anymore, but I'm still going to do exactly the thing you raised me to do.
Yeah.
They're all struggling to deal with their lifetime of abuse.
Mm-hmm. They all have PTSD to some degree or other.
Yeah, they're all very deeply emotionally scarred people.
Yes.
And the people they should be able to turn to the most in this situation is the people who shared the abuse with them. And they should be able to, have this one thing shared among them. But it's like they still, all the old wounds from childhood that, are still there. Even the old rivalries, the old hurts, the old.
But there is a certain amount of bonding, like Klaus and Ben bonded before Ben was dead, and Allison and Luther bonded in a attraction kind of way. And I know somewhere in there, I think it's Diego says to Vanya that she has to have a partner to be part of the Umbrella Academy. And since she's number 7, she has no partner. So that makes her even more left out because she can't be a partner to anyone, although Allison reaches out to her sometimes as a sister and vice versa.
Yeah, but and that's now. But when we certainly got the impression that was not happening during childhood. And I think that's why, even though it's funny, because I had a couple of issues with Vanya's character as the season progresses, and yet she was also the character that I felt I gravitated to the most because she's so isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And she has that and that's sort of her trauma of not having anybody, of being rejected and pretty much at every turn, and
always alone.
Yes. And once Ben died, she could have been partnered up with somebody, but Reginald was too afraid of her powers, and she was, when younger, she was uncontrollable when she was 4, so kept killing the nurse.
Well, yeah, it was her temper that was always, he couldn't, the one thing about her that he could not control was her temper.
Right.
And if he couldn't have absolute control over her, and knowing how vastly dangerous her potential was, he just had to shut her down because he was afraid of her. He was afraid of her potential, of what he knew absolutely what she could do, but not what the limits of what she could do was.
Well, so. He says from somewhat at the beginning, he got them together to save the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, not that it isn't a good thing to do, but stopping a bank robbery is not saving the world. It's maybe helping that particular bank, and it's the people who keep their money there, but
right.
I think Reginald knew something that we don't know, even when he started collecting them.
It almost has to be. And we don't know a lot about Sir Reginald from season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Real talk. We're not going to talk any season 2 spoilers, but we don't know a whole lot more from season 2 about Sir Reginald. But we do know that there's a scene at the beginning of episode 10 that is labeled "Long Ago," and Sir Reginald somewhere, and there's a woman who's dying, and he looks very youthful, and there's maybe nuclear missiles being launched.
Yeah, something.
But even out in the fields, if you look closely, there's other technology, something out there. I don't know where he is. I don't know when he is. but like
that was when they opened up with that scene for the final episode. I was like, yes, I love stuff like this. It's like we have no idea where or when he is, and then he pops up in the past.
Yeah, and like 1914 or something.
Yeah, he's younger, but he should be much younger.
Yeah, he came to America in 1928, and it appeared that in the death scene with an unknown woman who was his love, it appeared that he was, somewhat older than when he got to New York, or I'm assuming that's New York. Somebody who's more familiar with the skyline could say yay or nay to that, but
well, 1920, it's the
right.
skyline changed 100%.
Right. But anyway, 1928 is when he arrived. And so sometime after that, and of course we know, at least as far as our government has let us know, we didn't have nuclear missiles for sure, and probably not very many missiles at all. The first time rockets were used was in when Napoleon was defeated in Waterloo, and they weren't very reliable. They just kind of shot off wherever they went. So they weren't guided rockets, but there was a long time before guided missiles became a reality, whether they were nuclear or not.
Well, it's just mind-boggling that Sir Reginald is still so mysterious, but yet he can still appear in the afterlife and does. But what does that even mean? We don't know.
Right.
Klaus's conversation with the little girl he meets there, it's I don't know what to even make of her,
Right? What type of a being is she? Is that a place? Did she call him up there? Is she some higher being? Is it supposed to be God?
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of my own impression when she was talking. I'm like, is that God? Yeah.
I thought for a minute I fell into Dogma or something, and what am I watching? But I love that kind of thing. And he finally gets to talk to his dad, and he almost gets a type of an answer, and then boom, you're out.
I love how even then how insufferable Reginald is. It's like when he brings up about sorry, I'm still not super familiar with the names. Luther, when he's talking about Luther and the messages, and he's like that was an unfortunate decision or something like that. I should have burned them. And it's like that. And he's like, that's what you took away from me?
Yeah. Not that, he thought the last 4 years of his life were meaningless.
Right.
But I should have destroyed the evidence.
Right. I should have destroyed the evidence. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, he's horrible.
He is horrible.
Well, it's something like you're not ashamed of what you did. You're ashamed that you got caught.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Reginald.
Yeah, that's the only flaw in the entire operation. But you can tell, you wonder why this man is even trying to raise yes, he says I'm trying to prevent the end of the world or whatever. But what is he doing with these children?
I think that's the real crux, and the question that's still unanswered.
Right.
We really don't know why or how Sir Reginald knows anything that he knows.
And it's like their entire life is a science experiment.
Yes.
I'm going to mention to Amy, are we ever going to get Five's name? That's a good question. And I kind of wonder, why he didn't get a name the same time everyone else did. Because
We don't really know how they got their name.
Okay, it said that Mom named them.
Mom named them.
But it also, like, when 5 travels forward in time and makes it to the apocalypse, he calls out for Vanya and Ben, not 7 and 6. So
Right.
they had names already, and he knew everybody's name when he came back. Of course, I guess that's possible from reading the book, because he did find Vanya's book. But he still knew Vanya and Ben's name right then and there.
I don't think he read the book until he was post-apocalyptic. It shows him reading it in the apocalypse era.
Immediately after the apocalypse is what he's saying. When he finds their bodies in the rubble, he calls them by name, and that's like
yes,
in his mind, just a few seconds after he left the house.
Right.
So, in actual time of his time, it's only been just a few minutes. But man, those timelines trip me up.
Yeah,
timelines be trippy.
It is wibbly and or wobbly.
Yeah, can we just talk about the fact that the apocalypse is kind of 5's fault for going back at all?
The apocalypse is kind of 5's fault. It's kind of Vanya's fault. It's kind of Luther's fault.
But we actually see a version of events where 5 doesn't come back, and it looks like things, probably would have turned out okay. And then we see the version where he does come back and he screws everything up.
I think the blame for the apocalypse, if you're looking for who to blame, falls on Sir Reginald.
Bingo.
Yep. He's the puppeteer.
Yeah. I mean,
but he bought these children evidently from their mothers.
Bought them.
Yes, bought them because he's shown with Luther going, how much do you want for it? It's not even how much you want for the baby. It's how much you want for it.
Yeah.
And
actually, I think that was Vanya.
Do you?
The one that was born in the pool? I think Vanya was born in the pool.
Oh, okay. I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. But anyway, he can't even call it, he, she, whatever. And he offers money, and I'm assuming that's how he got them. And he couldn't get all 43 of them, probably because even though it was a surprise child, surprise, here's a kid. Some parents, mothers, whatever, did not want to give up those babies, but seven of them did.
Yeah, imagine that. Every mother he went to wasn't like, sure, take my kid for money. But actually, that's really interesting to me because when I was thinking back on it, I was like, okay, so there were how many? 43?
43.
Mm-hmm.
And so
43.
So we've seen the 7, but just because they weren't taken doesn't mean that they don't have powers. Where are they? What are they doing? Have they discovered their abilities? Presumably by now they must have.
Right. Because the other ones were showing signs at such a young age. So yeah, why haven't we heard from them yet? Or are we? I can't wait.
Right. So let me just throw this to the panel. I'm loving that we're all over the place, and that's just how we do. But let me throw this question out there. Do you have a favorite character from season 1?
I do.
I do.
Okay. First of all, how about a favorite Hargreeves, and then how about a favorite non-Hargreeves?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of great not Hargreeves characters in it.
Right. I have a whole list. I'd say as much as you want to I don't know. 5. 5 is my favorite.
Fair enough.
He is just a fantastically well-conceived character. It's just like, oh, I just love the concept that there's like this 50-some-year-old man stuck in an 8-year-old's body, and he's pissed off all the time. I just love that. I'm like, I really can relate to him. Like, if I was like shoved back in, 8-year-old me and having to deal with all of that, as oh hell no. And first off, and then having all this potential, this knowledge, this terrible weight of knowledge, and you still get kind of brushed off like an 8-year-old kid. I would be very homicidal.
Now, isn't he supposed to be 13?
Is he 13?
Not 8? I think he's 13. 13 and 58 simultaneously. 58 in his consciousness and 13 in his body.
Yeah.
And I want you to think about this. He complains about going. Go ahead.
He's even little for his age. He's not like, he's like a little scrawny kid anyway. And he's just, you could just see the grumpy old guy just oozing out of his pores.
Yeah.
And can I just say, it's a very strange phenomenon watching interviews with the young actor who plays Five, because he's very articulate. So when I was watching interviews with him, I'm like, I'm still thinking this is a 50-year-old and in his body. It's just like, it's hard to wrap your head around it actually being a young kid.
That kid is something else. Aidan Gallagher is his name. And like, I'm convinced he can play whatever he wants, because he can play a 58-year-old man.
Absolutely. Trapped in a 13-year-old body.
Right. It's every minute of it is believable.
Absolutely.
Totally. So he's received some excellent direction, and also accomplished as an actor, wherever the director led him. He really did a fine job.
Right. And I guess for my non-Hargrave, I would have to go probably either with, it's hard to choose, but I love the handler.
Okay.
The handler. She is very, very, very well played.
Kate Walsh.
Kate Walsh. Yes, I love Kate Walsh. I've seen her in many, many things. And she really just plays like this. I mean, she pulls off like the 1950s, like it's nothing. Like she just wears it about her like a perfume. The whole affectations and from the dress, the style, the mannerisms. I just love how she incorporates all that into this character. Plus, she's downright evil.
Yes, she is.
She is, had machinations within plans, she is 3 steps ahead of everybody else in the entire series.
Yeah, I think it's interesting at the commission, everything is fit from the 50s. The phones, the file cabinets, the
dress, the switchboard, is it set?
Everything. It says we got stuck in the 50s.
Yeah, but is the commission actually in the 50s?
Yes.
It probably is.
There is a scene when we first see Five go to the commission.
Mm-hmm.
When we see the handler take him, and I think it might be in the episode entitled Number 5.
Yes.
But it says 1955.
Episode 5, number 5.
Yes.
And I think it says but I know the year is 1955.
And does anybody notice that there's an observatory right outside the commission?
And one on top of the
umbrella. And at the Umbrella Academy, there's one like out in their garden or courtyard or whatever. There's an observatory there.
Why not?
Hey, it's just one of those odd little things that you're like, okay.
But yeah, I guess that's supposed to lend a like a futuristic aspect to it, like from back in the when it's in the 50s. Like, hey, we're all sciencey. We're looking at the stars. We're thinking about going to space, and we're gonna shoot a monkey up into the we're going to circle the planet here we're going to get, like you were saying, Betsy, the rockets and the technology like that. That's kind of like where it stopped for these guys.
Yes. But they have a room full of briefcases that allows them to travel through time. So what's up with that?
Yeah.
Right.
Where did that technology come from?
Right. But again, like they have that technology, but they don't have cell phones or even like personal computers.
Tube.
They
send messages through a tube station. Like I have that at my hospital at work, which is great for like shooting off some lab specimens down to the lab. But you're sending kill orders through a tube system in the inside of like a microwave. This is freaky to me.
Or in the wall of the shower,
Yeah, just random places. Let me just go open this up. Mail's here. It can come in anywhere. So a mini fridge. It's in the mini fridge. Or a vending machine.
Yes.
It's just the weirdest communication system ever.
John.
Yeah, I'm a little bit conflicted because the character who I gravitate towards the most, I feel, wasn't given the best story this season, and that is Vanya. So I'll be interested to see how her character does in season 2 when I watch it.
I would be interested to see you seeing that.
Yeah, because I don't know. Maybe it's just the thing about being on your own a lot, as a youth and feeling like you're ostracized a bit that makes her a very compelling character. And I immediately felt sympathy for her. And it's sort of heartbreaking to watch her fall apart in the final episodes and just lash out in rage. And there's, although I'm not particularly the type to, be filled with just all out rage, but I still recognize that sort of impulse to feel angry about things. But I will also single out another member of the family, just because I thought that his story was so incredible, and I didn't think I was going to care for his character as much as I did. And that's God, again, sorry, I'm still trying to remember names.
I'll bring him up in a minute.
Klaus.
Yeah, me
I'll bring him up in a minute.
Because he was just so emotionally fragile, and I loved seeing him sort of succeed, but then just my heart just melted for him when he was eager to just get back on the pills and make it all go away. And the scene with him where he sees his father, just the emotions that he goes through in the face of his father, who really is just the worst. And I think he's kind of hanging on to see some kind of humanity in this man. And then he realizes that there really isn't.
Willow, it's enough.
Go ahead.
And then towards the end of the season, it's like he's starting to prove himself, and they're still, treating him with sort of derision.
But that's real, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but at the same time, even though I get why that's earned, it's still heartbreaking to see.
I agree.
And yeah, so for the season, combination of character and storyline, I'd go with Klaus, but I very much respond to Vanya. And I'm hoping that she gets some really great stuff moving forward. As far as a non-family member, or do you want me to stop since I cheated and I picked 2?
Well, you know what a stickler I am for the rules.
Well, what does that mean? I could go either way, because you told us to
You know what?
somebody
We're going to
outside
have
the
mom talk for a minute. We'll come back to John. Mom.
Well, my favorite Hargreeves is Klaus.
Right.
And it's because all the other kids, he experienced the same lack of attention that all the other kids had, but he had an additional problem in that he can commune with the dead, and how terrifying that has to be. And his loving father would lock him in a crypt for hours on end to try to teach him to not be afraid. And that's like forcing a kid to live in a cave with no lights because they're afraid of the dark. It's just horrible. If we had to experience and didn't know how to channel properly all these dead people, it would be 420 for us all the time, just like it is for Klaus. He just, that's how he was started as a teenager to cope with his existence, because it was so overwhelming, and he never had the kind of treatment from Reginald to help him learn to tune that better.
Every child is afraid of the dark, Miss Betsy. It's all like you said, it's how you help them get over and get through their fears that, helps them get through that. And just locking him away and it's like, just here, you're going to stay in here until you stop screaming, basically.
Right. And I will bet he never stopped. Not really.
Not internally. He's
he may have
every minute of every day to dull his power down. So, with the booze and the drugs and everything, and to just stop it out, just shut it up, so that.
Well, and on the surface, Klaus, because of the drugs, he's this happy-go-lucky kind of float through life. But I think in his heart, he genuinely cares. I think he expresses care for his siblings that they don't necessarily express for him. And I think there's a lot of love in his heart, but because he did have to go down the self-medication road to survive, they just think he's a flake.
Right.
And that's sad too. And then do you want me to tell you my favorite?
No, because we've already he's mentioned Klaus, you've mentioned Klaus. I'm just going to pile on because Klaus is my favorite Hargreeves too. At least in season 1 he is.
Go right ahead.
So I'm just going to ride the Klaus wave a little bit more. The thing that, like, the irony of a junkie being able to literally see his lost loved one, but he has to choose to be clean to do it and to go through the withdrawals. And in so doing, he finds himself capable of doing even more, even though he barely even gets to see Dave. There is something like a lot of people who go through abuse end up turning to drugs to numb their pain. Klaus is probably one of the least subtle metaphors for that in the whole series. But I love the contrast of, I need to be numb, but the thing I want the most, I need to not be numb for.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, well, and Michael Sheehan plays that character
so
well. From the drugged up, wasted side to the, going through withdrawals, itching on himself side to the, I've been sober for 24 hours now. Why don't you believe me? Because, I mean, he's got so much to chew on, which is probably why I like him the best. Because he's just got so much to do and so much different things. They all really do, but Klaus has maybe the biggest arc in season 1.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just the fact that he's He went to Vietnam, for God's sake.
And
You know, and
it's
fought in the Vietnam War.
it's the fact that his family expects him to be so like out in left field that they don't even notice
They don't
the
even
change
notice.
that he's undergone after spending a year, you know, in Vietnam. It's like they don't notice that change because it's just Klaus being Klaus.
Just
And
Klaus. It is, yeah.
Mhm.
They didn't even notice he was kidnapped.
Right.
You know,
They didn't even
Yeah.
notice he was
when
gone.
he's
Yeah.
gone because he's so apt to just go off at any time, and they're used to it, you know. So him being gone for any amount of time, it's like, well, he's just being Klaus. He'll turn up eventually. You know, we'll find him asleep on the couch somewhere. You know.
Yeah, like even down to when Hazel and Cha-Cha took him, they said, "We have your brother." They thought they thought the siblings thought that Hazel and Cha-Cha were talking about number 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Okay, so how about a non-Hargreaves, Mom or John, whoever's faster?
Well, I would say my favorite is Hazel, because he begins to become redeemed a little bit. But somewhere, I forget which episode, but he's talking to Cha-Cha and he's like, wouldn't you like to get out on your own and then you can go where you want and kill the people you want to kill? I mean, he doesn't want to stop killing people. He just wants to kill the ones that he wants to kill.
Well, not be told who he has to kill. I think that was the day that.
See, I had a different read on that. I felt that he was talking to her because he knows that she still wants to kill, but I very much got the impression that he doesn't want to do that anymore. So for himself, he wants to move away from that, but that's him saying to her, you know, you can do whatever you want for yourself, not for other people. Maybe that's just me wanting to think the best of him.
Hazel is just like that guy who's been working for the company for 30 years. He's not going to get any higher. He's just in it for the retirement, you know, and the dental plan. He's just, and then he's grousing about how many forms and things you have to fill out to get your benefits package. So, I mean, he's just like so burnt out and over being part of this corporation, company, whatever. You know, he's just done. Like, he's like the guy at the post office that you would like imagine would just come in and just blow everybody away because he's just so over working for the government. So, I mean, for him to just say, "Hey, an apocalypse is coming anyway. You know, what have I got to lose? You know, what's the company done for me lately? You know." So
I do find it interesting that Hazel, Cameron Brait, he's 6'5" and hefty. I don't know how much he weighs. Mary J. Blige is 5'9", which isn't short, but she looks like a tiny little lady beside him, even though she's not.
He's not only very tall, but he's
big. He's a
big boy.
By the way, I looked myself. The actor for Hazel was 32 years old when they were filming this, and the actress that plays Agnes was 62 years old when they filmed it. And I absolutely fell in love with that couple, with Hazel and Agnes.
Yeah, you could easily tell there was a big age difference, but it was a very believable love story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it was just like so organic that they just had that same, I don't know, just outlook on life. He just admired her ability to just find peacefulness watching birds.
This is where a small criticism of mine comes in, and it's sort of similar to the criticisms I have with Vanya's storyline, is that I felt like some of these with some of these romantic relationships, the degree to which they were willing to give themselves over to the other person. In the case of Hazel and I don't remember
Agnes.
Agnes. I did feel like it was a little quick that she was willing to go off with this guy, and so
they only have 8 days to tell the story, and if you're 62 and a 32-year-old comes up and starts showing interest in you, and you have any kind of interest at all in this boy toy, boy, you're going to say, "Haul me away, buddy."
Fair enough. I don't know. It just felt.
Especially as somebody who's just spent her whole life right there in that donut shop, just serving the donuts, and she wants something, just something more, something.
Trying to carpe that diem, man.
Right.
Well, and we don't realize she's the donut shop owner until they leave town, and she puts up a sign saying she's going to close her business. So.
Yeah. Yep.
So, John, who was your favorite not Hargreeves?
Pogo.
Pogo Hargreaves. Pogo Hargreaves.
Well, okay, but he's not.
Okay, but like, you know what? Let's talk about Pogo some.
Okay.
Yeah,
like the minute he showed up on screen, I'm like, ape version of Alfred. And I'm like, I'm all in.
I think Pogo was about the moment when I went, okay. I have to watch this.
The chimp is talking. All right, I am down for this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something about that. So maybe it's an archetype of the butler sort of character, but I liked the fact, and yes, he certainly has shades of gray, certainly, but the fact that he's this sort of fills the role of the father figure who actually cares for the siblings in place of a father who couldn't care less, and
I mean, he was a real dad.
Yeah,
if you want to.
And the fact that he goes along with some things that are really sketchy, but you see the pain on his face as because he's in a similar position, because we don't really see how he's made or not, how he's transformed into his current state, but he is basically enforced servitude to his, for lack of a better term, his maker. And
I mean,
so
you can't go get a job at Starbucks or something,
Yeah, and it's just seeing the sort of immense sadness on his face as he's going sort of through the motions of following the orders of Reginald, and then the pain on his face when Vanya says, did you know? And the end when he says, yes, I did. And the resignation on his face as he knows what's coming. I just felt such emotion for that character. And yeah, just, you could sense that everybody kind of respected him as a proper father figure. Even Diego, who sort of dismisses everything, even though he has a couple moments of anger, early on, as far where Pogo is concerned, where he's sort of dismissive, but then throughout he comes back around, and and sort of when he mentions Pogo, or they're talking about him, you sense a sort of reverence that you'd never hear him speak about with reference to Reginald.
Right.
And so I really like that bond between him and the children. And yeah, like I said, the 8 version of Alfred, it's just, how are you not going to love that?
Yep.
I'm here for it. Well, here
Mom, yeah.
we've almost gone an hour, so I'm going to do the mid roll here in a second. But like, I wanted to address Anna's question here. Do you think that Grace has self-awareness? I also like, before I even give my answer, I want to say I like that the show itself did not make a presumption that she did or did not. Like a lot of times in something like Star Trek, they're just going to tell you this thing has self-awareness, and then they'll have the conversation about whether or not they're Starfleet property. But in this one, it's not clear. I don't think the show makes a clear stance one way or the other.
Yeah, and if you had asked me throughout the majority of season 1, I would say that she does not. But then there's a moment closer in the second half of the season in the whole timeline that happened, but then
It didn't happen.
snatched away.
Yeah,
It
the
didn't
day
happen.
there wasn't.
Yeah, where she's talking to Diego,
Yeah,
and she's about to tell him that tells me that maybe she is. And so, but again, like Steven, I kind of enjoy the fact that the show doesn't lay down a for sure position. It's kind of left to interpretation.
Well, and even the Hargreeves siblings don't necessarily agree if she is or not.
Right.
And by the way, I have to say that whether she's self-aware or not, but that bond between her and Diego is
it's so close. I mean, you could tell he is a mama's boy, and that's his mom.
Yeah.
And they're just, he is, when she's teaching him, I mean, his stuttering, when she's working with him on his stuttering, which is something his father, we'll call him father because Pogo's dad, but father would do nothing but belittle him about, and just, and that.
Well, and his siblings too, probably.
Worse and worse and worse. So
Mm-hmm.
just having someone that it's lovingly working with him, who just,
when his stutter comes out late in the season.
Oh, it gets me.
It's like, I'll be honest, Diego's not my favorite. I think he's really an ass. but I'll be damned if I didn't come to care for him. It's moments like that.
Yeah, they're all so very humanly flawed. They've done some not great things, but then each one of them has a moment where they just express their human side, which is so deep, and it just gets you right in the feels every time. Every time
I think having a stutter, they didn't show this, but inevitably his siblings would have teased him about a stutter. That's just how kids are, even if they are superheroes.
What are you talking about? I never teased.
Let alone what his dad would do. Yeah.
I never teased my brothers.
Oh no, you never tease your brothers about anything, and they don't tease you either, do they, Stephen?
They tease me all the time, but I was a perfect child and never teased my brother. My official answer is I actually think Grace is self-aware. I don't know that I feel like maybe she has programming that can limit the actions that she can take, but I still think that she knows she is a being of some kind. Like maybe not self-awareness to the same degree as a human, but I think there's something going on there.
I agree. But I don't think she's fully sentient like, say, Pogo is.
Right.
Right. I mean, she did kill, Reggie. So.
Or did she?
Well, I think Interesting.
Well, she was reprogrammed to allow him to expire, which is
right.
Not,
but did he drink the poison himself, or did she give it to him? We really don't know. Because there is an indication that he committed suicide to get the Umbrella Academy back together.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what a dick move to start with.
No kidding.
Right?
I agree. He never did anything that, was kind, apparently, except to that dying love of his.
My final act of control over these kids is I am going to force them to come back together to deal with my death. It's all about.
Yeah, it's like, and the thing is, it would have been easy enough to have, if we're talking about sort of storytelling cliches too, when we see him after he's died and Klaus is talking with him, to give him like a sliver of redemptive, well, this was my intention. We're like, oh, well, he was horrible, but, but deep down he had these, emotions and higher purpose. It's like, no, he's just proved once again to be a horrible excuse for a human being.
And he
Yeah.
and he ended up in a pretty decent place, He's this horrible being father, and he just ended up like, I'm just gonna sit here in the French countryside and drink wine. That's my afterlife, Okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe you had some higher purpose of trying to prevent the apocalypse, but actually the apocalypse that you were trying to prevent never would have happened if you never would have scooped up these poor kids. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the end of the whole story is somehow them figuring out to set things right. That basically, like, something needs to change from the time that they were born, because again, I feel like that's where technology stopped. We can't get to the world we live in 2019 without going through a long process of like technological, again, because of the missing technologies,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not trying not to say anything about season 2 either. But
Right.
yeah. Okay, so let's stick a pin in the conversation for just a second while I do the mid-roll. Okay? Cool.
No.
no,
I can mute you all.
No, I'm
But
agreeing.
okay, so
I can unmute.
You have no
everyone
power.
of you is here now. Thank you for coming. I'm just going to talk over anybody who tries to talk over me now. Thank you for coming, everyone. I hope you're having a good time. Please, at this point, remember to like and subscribe if you haven't. We do nerdy conversations like this all week. Mom just dropped. She'll be back in a minute, I'm sure. I did not remove her, I promise.
Oh, you would be so banned.
Yeah. But she'll be back in a minute, I'm sure. Stop it. John, what you got coming up this week? What's new with you, John?
You're just gonna mute me now.
No, I'm not.
You had a pretty
No,
busy
sir. I'm
day.
going to take the high road.
Oh God, why do I do stuff like that? I just know it's gonna come back to bite me.
Right. I gotta reserve my my revenge for. Gotta serve it cold, man.
Yeah, exactly. No, I did not kick Betsy out, Aaron. That I would not do. Okay.
No, I would kick John out for that.
That's like unforgivable territory, and it's like Steven's a different category. I feel fine doing that, but not Mama. Not. Okay, so on my channel, yeah, so I'm actually moving my stream to a new day and time, because I figure people are starting to go back to work, and maybe Thursday at 2:00 is not the most opportune time, because I've got to work a lot of time too. So I decided to move it to Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And the first of the new streams will be, I guess today's Sunday. So this coming Saturday, I will be talking about the AMC series, The Terror, the first season. And I'll be doing that with a lovely young lady that you all know as Kelly, or Jaded Redhead. So come check that out, and we're going to have a great time. All right.
Are there boats in that?
There may be.
There may be.
Mom, your icon here with the little Dallas Cowboy stars shooting itself in the head is fantastic. Nessie, what do you got coming up?
Oh, well, I've got a laundry list of requests from the fandom. So, hoping to record an episode with Learned Hands very soon. We had a little hiccup last week with the hurricane. I think maybe some people in Texas might have felt a hurricane or had a hurricane. That's what I hear anyway. They have them down there. So we postponed recording that. So that'll be up very soon. We're doing a trial episode with the Learned Hands, and it's going to be putting Adolphus Mertry on trial for being the wonderful human being that he is. And I've got some vaguely, we haven't put a stamp on when we're going to do it, but noted dungeon master Mr. Stephen Stark is going to come on, and we are going to discuss all types of mythical monsters and mayhem in fantasy gaming. So look forward to that in the upcoming weeks. And from that, I've got a list.
Okay. So
stay tuned
Nessie,
for that stuff.
So to everyone who is here, very soon we will be conducting a giveaway. And we will be giving away. You want to show it, Nessie? Hold on. I'm gonna give you the solo screen.
Okay, so it's going to be like a package deal. I haven't had a chance to tell Stephen, but I have. We found out from a friend how to ship things.
Certain things
that you cannot ship by the post office, and we're going to have a giveaway. Have this lovely cobalt blue bottle with a lovely brass dragon wine stopper that will be shipped separately. And it's going to be filled with our signature channel wine called Here Be Dragon's Blood. And let me tell you, it's delicious. So it's going to be a package giveaway at some point in the very near future. And we'll probably discuss it after the stream today.
Yes, we will. So, yes, somebody, in theory, will be winning a bottle of homemade wine. Here Be Dragon's Blood wine. Cobalt blue bottle, and you've got your dragon wine stopper that's going to come with it. So, yeah.
Yes.
Other channels give away books and stuff. We give away booze.
Yes.
Is that legal?
We checked. It is legal under the right circumstances.
Under the right circumstances, yes, it is. I have researched them in depth.
Yeah, before we went public with it, we made sure we knew. Unfortunately, it's probably only going to be able to ship in the United States.
Continental United States, yes. Customs and Border Patrol might.
Yeah, so just apologies to everybody that does not live in the United States, but yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
before we go back into the discussion, I just realized I forgot to mention something. Today I had the pleasure of guesting on the Fandom Media YouTube channel, invited by the very nice Kyle, who I've known for a while, but he invited me to speak on his channel for the first time today, and we were discussing The Mandalorian. So if you guys... Yep, I was wearing my Ahsoka and Rex shirt because Ahsoka will, of course, be appearing this season on The Mandalorian. And he has invited me back to maybe do an episode chat once the season begins. So please go check out our conversation that we had today, and hopefully I'll be back on there soon.
Right on. And of course, got to do my Patreon shout outs. So thank you to our top level patrons, Lord John Bronsteen the Wise, Sir Maura Lee of Starfall, and Sixto Sounds, the Axe Grinder. Actually, I made a banner for this. Also, Ridiculous Ed Tollett, love you, brother. You've been here since the very beginning. But also, raising her. Okay, I'm just going to read exactly what she told me to write. Leaf Underhill, who raised her Patreon because she lost a bet to me and is too lazy to send a check.
We love you, Leaf.
We do love you, Leaf.
I love you, Leaf, and I even gave her several opportunities to get out of having, but we made a bet, and she's paying up by being a patron, slightly higher level patron. But we love you guys. Thank you so much. If you want any of our links to social media or to the Patreon or whatever, it's down there in the description below. Okay, let's. Anything else? Anything else you can think of for the mid-roll? Oh, next week there will be and I know that nerd. And guys,
we don't have to talk about this. We really don't, Stephen.
I have the guest for next week. Like, it was tough, but had to have my people talk to their people.
I don't know how you pulled it.
Next week we will be joined for, and I know that nerd, with the incredible John Webster of John Webster Film.
I don't know how you got such a high-profile guest, Stephen.
Hey, man, what can I say? I'm popular.
So, people in the audience, please make sure to send all of the embarrassing questions that you want Stephen to ask John. You can
know where to find me.
You know where to find him.
The links to my social media are down below, and if you want to email me a question, you can email it to we3dragons@gmail.com.
I'm legitimately frightened now.
I'm just popping that into the chat. There it is.
And I'm just going to say that what I've got going on, my Cowboys start playing next week.
Yeah, we might.
I'm a football fan.
Coming up,
and
more football.
And I'll be there unless the Cowboys are playing at the exact same time, and I will be trying to pay attention to both. We'll see how well I do. But this little emblem that you can see here is what the Cowboys have been doing here for quite some time, and I had really great drafts on both of my fantasy football leagues. So hey, I'm ready.
Nobody cares about your fantasy football, Mom.
I know they don't, but I wanted to get my 2 cents in.
People are really looking forward to this. I know that nerd next week, my man.
I know, but I have no idea.
Be on to do one before long. But the reason we're not doing Umbrella Academy Season 2 next week is because Nessie has to work. So 2 weeks from now, we'll be doing Season 2 of the Umbrella Academy. And the panel will be, I'm pretty much sure, will be just the exact same panel we've got right now.
I will say that what's really cool for me about getting to come on an episode of I Know That Nerd now especially is because we're just a little bit shy of a year since my first appearance on your stream, Stephen. And it's wild to me that it's been that long. It doesn't really feel like it. But so I can think of no better way to mark the occasion. So thank you.
Right. I like that. And it's like everybody's making bingo cards for John. Like, it's going to be great. But how about that Umbrella Academy? How about it? So, like, let me say that some of the time, okay, although they are meant to be like super assassins and like hitmen and all that, like nobody can shoot straight in this universe. Nobody. Like they went to stormtrooper gunnery school. Because like people in a theater or a bowling alley and there's 12 guys with machine guns just like on full spray mode and nobody even gets winged. Even if you're running down the bowling alley in a line, I'm just sorry. That breaks my immersion ever so slightly.
Wait a second. Is Stephen complaining about something related to
Gunplay,
and tactics, and
yes, he is.
I've never heard of such a thing. Oh my God.
Right. Okay. Well, I said it, but I will say that like the best line in the whole series happens in that bowling alley, and it is, maybe they're here for Kenny's birthday party. I don't know why, but like I choked the first time I heard that line. Like it was just Klaus. Like, of course. How would you even think that? Does he even think that? I don't know, but it's just so funny.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I think it's funny that from that point onward, they're all wearing bowling shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, the bowling shoes.
Those ugly, tacky bowling shoes. They go off to
Right.
save the world in bowling shoes. Well, that's enough.
Ooh, hold on. Xander sighting in the background. Xander
Okay.
sighting in the background. Sorry. Like it is a proven fact that pets on camera automatically make your stream better.
I get it. You guys want Sam on my channel. Jeez.
Yep. There he is.
You'll have to have him next week.
He never wants to stay still. It's like
Yeah.
he'll make
That's
his
okay.
appearance for 2 seconds, then he's like, let me out of here.
Hold on. Wait a
Xander
minute.
didn't stay there very long either. Willow.
Okay. Agnieszka asks, if you had to sleep with one of the Umbrella Academy, who would you pick? And only one?
There's no way. There's no way we come out of this looking like
I
gentlemen.
know there isn't. Like, okay, I'm just going to say Allison. She's a little more my type, and like real talk, Ellen Page isn't interested in me at all. So I'm just going to go with Allison. All right, great. I stepped on that landmine. Anybody else?
I'm not touching this.
Well, I would say Tom Hopper can eat crackers in my bed anytime. He's a very attractive man, but I don't want the ape man version of him. I want the pre-ape man version.
You want the hot version.
Yeah.
You bet. Well, I enjoyed him. He was on, I guess the first thing I ever saw him on was Merlin. He played one of the Knights of the Round Table.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did have a small part on Game of Thrones.
He was hot in that.
Very
Yeah,
hot.
really hot. Yeah, he definitely got to glow up in that one.
He's been hot and gone shirtless in almost everything he's ever done. So,
Yeah, that's
because hey, if you got it, flaunt it.
Right. Well,
yeah, that's some hot Dick and Charlie right there. Yeah.
yeah. What about Klaus? Well, like if I'm looking at the question honestly, sorry, Klaus is not equipped to handle me.
I mean, he might argue that.
You're right.
Yeah.
But-
Hands down, Klaus. I'm sorry. Just yeah.
Okay, we're going to go off the rails here if we're not careful. But Nessie, do you care to answer?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I was down for Klaus, man. I'm
Okay.
like, we are going to have a phenomenal time. Neither one of us might remember it the next day, but we're going to have a phenomenal time. Oh, take me
Okay.
to a rave, Klaus. Take me to a rave.
So, who have we not talked about? We talked about all of our favorites. Who have we not
Okay,
talked
for the record, just so people don't think I'm a direction, first I want to say I respect her enormously as an actress. Just want to make that clear. But yes, it would be Allison. All right, okay, there.
Yes.
I mean-
So, you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about Allison then.
Yeah, Allison.
Played by
Rita.
Emmy Raver Lapman.
Mhm.
She's a beautiful woman.
She really is. And I think is really a bit more known for stage production. Like she was not in the original cast of Hamilton, but she was in the first touring cast of Hamilton. She played Eliza.
Oh, she played
Or
Eliza.
Angelica. I'm sorry, Angelica.
Oh, Angelica. Yeah, I could see her playing Angelica.
And she is.
So she has a great singing voice, then, huh?
I would assume she does. And I got to say this too, like, I did not connect with Allison a whole lot my first watch through until we got to the scene where Luther is talking to her daughter and in the phone book, and she has no lines, and she acts her ass off through that whole thing.
Yeah, she desperately wants to tell her, the apocalypse is nigh. The end is nigh, and she can't tell her daughter goodbye.
See, I was pretty much on Allison's side and engaging with her character as soon as she started giving what's his name, the stink guy, who's the Leonard.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, like get him out of the picture as quickly as possible. He cannot
trust him, huh? You didn't trust Leonard from the get-go?
Like at first, I left the possibility, but after like an episode or two, I was like, no, there's no way he's actually a good guy, because otherwise he's just a red herring, which is kind of a waste of time. So I kind of figured that he was up to no good, and this is where we come down to the sort of issue that I had with Vanya's storyline, is that, and I get that she was desperate to sort of latch onto somebody that she felt, knew her, but he started acting like really, really weird to the point of, it's like, doesn't that raise your red flag just a little bit?
But like, I gotta be sympathetic to Vanya because she's been medicated all this time and has felt like an outsider all this time, and then all of a sudden here's an opportunity to first of all feel like you've never felt before, and second of all to have someone who you feel like believes in you. Like, I understand that you have an issue with it, John, but I don't know. Like, is it fast? Yes, it is, but it also reads as like not.
He just started acting like really, like overly engaged with her power and going over the top without her suspecting anything yet. And it's like, at least like have some suspicion that that's weird.
Right. Well, I think it was the flip-flop that he did, because it was like, you're ordinary, you were, how he approached her, like about her book, and how, he still thinks she's special. She's this great person. And then all of a sudden, once her quote powers are revealed, then it's all about the power. It's all about the power. And it's less and less about her and who she is as a person outside of that, as a musician, that was her way of expressing and finding some type of way to excel. And
but like,
it's something pretty special, by the way.
So by the time her power started to manifest, I was already off the Leonard train. But like, he continued to fool me even after like he took her pills and dumped them down the sink. I'm like, maybe it's a greater good kind of thing, because those pills are really holding her back. But it wasn't long after that we got a shot of like what was her name? Helen Cho, first chair violin.
Yes, her dead body in the attic.
I'm not confused about where I stand with him.
The pills were sort of my turning point. Like at that point I was like, this guy is pretty much scum, and I can tell he's gonna be bad news. So yeah, I didn't really I don't feel like I needed the dead body.
That was already the dead body, I think.
Well, and
the icing on the cake.
Slow.
The the romances, there's a couple of romances in this story, but they only had 8 days to tell this story. So these romances had to move along quickly. And I think it's believable in that she was so, well, all of the kids, like I said, they all have PTSD. And this was maybe one of the first people that really has paid a lot of attention to Vanya. And maybe the same thing with Agnes in her donut shop. She just was kind of a fixture there, and she may have had regulars that were nice to her. We don't see that, but here's this big, not unattractive man who's expressing interest in her. Well, yeah, you might jump into that very quickly.
Well, talking about quirky romantic relationships, can we talk about Dolores and number 5?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can we talk about that for a minute? I mean, that's
Just
pretty special.
Just really quick. Can I just say one more thing before we move on to that? Actually, just because Aaron does raise a good point, sort of counterpoint to what I'm saying, that when you're so used to being overlooked, you'll overlook a great deal about a person who pays attention to you. Yeah, and you're not wrong, and that is true. I guess it's just I wanted more for her than the romance with a guy she just met who clearly has bad intentions. I just felt like it wasn't the storyline I wanted for her as a character that I gravitated towards, and so I'm hoping for better things on the horizon for her. But yeah.
All I'll say is if you want something better for her, just watch season 2, because
it's pretty much.
I mean, I think there's something better for every character in the series in season 2.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and as I said in the beginning, I thought season 1 was excellent, but I don't have enough adjectives to say how extremely wonderfully great season 2 is. It's just season 1 is here, season 2 is like up here. It's so all-encompassing story.
Yeah. So you got 5 rolling through the apocalypse with a half a mannequin in the little rig that he's, he pulled.
You know what's great about this is that I went through like an evolution of understanding what this relationship was. It's like, first he's talking about what was the mannequin's name? Agnes?
Dolores.
Dolores. Sorry, I'm getting all the names mixed up.
You hear about Dolores before you ever see her.
Yeah, and so at first I'm thinking, oh, there must have been one other survivor. But then he goes and he gets the mannequin, and at that point I'm thinking, maybe the mannequin reminds him of Dolores. But then we actually see it, and it's like, oh no, he just was driving around a mannequin the entire time, and that's his love, basically. And I loved it.
It's like Wilson from Castaway.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Like the mannequins in the store, in the video store from I Am Legend, when everything around, I mean, there is no human being in sight. And that is like the closest thing to any type of human being that he can.
Tom Hanks had Wilson in Castaway. It's the same, at least Dolores was slightly human looking.
Right.
Yeah.
But even when he comes back to the present with all these people, he still has Dolores with him, and he still is talking to her like she's real,
He goes and gets Dolores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he still has
exactly
her.
the store, exactly the mannequin in the store that's just
right.
trouble. He knows exactly the store where she came from.
Right.
So, I mean.
And that's what I kind of skipped over 5 when we were talking about, characters that we really love, because I may not have picked him for my favorite character, but he's just amazing. And I love the fact that there's part of him that's, unhinged. It's like he's the guy who's, coming from the future with some answers, but he's a little cuckoo.
Yeah, he's got this burden with this terrible knowledge, just like every other like Lovecraft figure who's just had his mind exploded by what, things that he's seen. And he's just out there from then on. He's just like this, just out there. He has no way of relating to anyone else in the story. There's no one who's gone through the act, living alone on a post-apocalyptic Earth for 30 years. That's a heck of a lot of. Oh, like all the kids have this thing where they're separated and they're isolated and segregated, alone from humanity. Even Allison, who is, though she's got this terrific modeling career or what have you, but she's set up and she's set on a pedestal and she's set apart. So they've all got this isolation theme going on with them to certain degrees, and between 5 being in the apocalypse and Luther being sent to the moon for 4 years. They've all got these horrible.
I saw some people talking about it in the chat, and I guess there's some people who weren't fans, but I actually really responded to the relationship between Luther and Allison. I thought it was really emotional, and I like the fact that when they're young kids and they're in their tent and then Reginald comes up, you think like any normal father would be upset about what's obviously a sort of romantic interlude between two siblings, but no, he's just upset that they're up late after lights are supposed to be off.
It's games are to be had between noon and 1/2 noon on Saturday.
That's right. That's their fun time. 30 minutes a week.
It's like Tywin levels of like just not even considering, or maybe he just doesn't care.
I mean, that's just another notation in the journal entry, That's just another tick on the box. Okay, here we are.
But I loved seeing the contrast of when they're able to sort of take solace in each other in the day that wasn't, versus what unfolds when they don't get that time to sort of bond together and how it affects both of them.
Right.
So you guys ready for a question for which there is no answer? So you're just gonna have to spit your theories. Why
I'm gonna answer
does the commission want the apocalypse to happen? Or you could talk about Ben.
Why do they want the apocalypse to happen? Because Bran told them that it was supposed to happen.
Okay, I got you.
Oh man, it was Bran all along.
It really was.
I thought that guy in the fishbowl looked familiar.
But I do think that it's along the same lines of, I know this is controversial topics, but I will say my take on the Bran thing in Game of Thrones has always been that the way he sees things is that they've happened. He's not in control of that, even though he can see what's going to happen. But it's, as far as he's concerned, it's happened. It's always going to happen. So there's nothing he can do to stop it. And I see it very much of the same way, the way things operate in this. Like they know the apocalypse is going to happen and it can't be allowed to unfold any other way. So it may not even be a question of whether they want it to happen or not.
But like,
to me,
very clear that the commission wants the apocalypse to happen.
They want to maintain. They're doing everything possible to maintain this particular timeline. So,
maybe this is a timeline where the commission has power, even though they're stuck in the 50s. If you're stuck in the 50s, an apocalypse in 2019 is irrelevant to you.
Again, like, I don't
all
understand.
the time, any apocalypse is irrelevant to you.
So the
Right.
question is, the question then becomes if it's important to maintain an apocalypse that happens in 2019, does something follow that apocalypse?
That's what I was wondering.
That's-
If they have to just like basically wipe the slate so that the new world order will be exactly what they want it to be.
Right. So like the Noah's flood of their time is this apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
That's plausible.
Yeah, and then they're like, okay, everything's blank slated. All of the, all of the humanity's gone. All the buildings everything is destroyed. The Earth can kind of reset itself, and then
And
we'll just
does-
build this
and-
utopia.
And does Reginald come from that post-apocalyptic time?
I mean,
Yeah.
that is plausible, but like, he's from long ago also.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like,
Mhm.
when watching it this time, I kind of had this feeling, can long ago be just long ago from Sir Reginald's point of view? The same way, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Because when you start time traveling, the future can be your past.
Oh yeah, time basically becomes, whatever you want to make it. Yeah, maybe they did
Yeah.
just create the moon. And see, that's something too, because you can't undestroy the moon, no matter what.
Right.
So, the Earth is going to be forever changed. Even if it, surviving the apocalypse, because post
Okay.
winter, yeah.
You guys ready for some physics?
All right, Mr. Physics Man.
If a chunk of the moon, first of all, that piece of moon is traveling way too fast. It should take hours and hours and hours for a piece of the moon to get to Earth. Second of all, if a piece of moon that large hit the surface of the Earth, it would probably liquefy the entire surface of the planet, not leave like blasted hellscape for 5 to wander around in for 45 years.
I don't think you push your glasses up far enough, Stephen.
It would literally melt the entire surface of the Earth.
You actually need to do it.
I'm
With
trying.
both.
Won't go any farther.
Cue Conan O'Brien animation. Yes, well, actually,
but like, it's a beautiful shot.
Unnecessarily.
Like,
and by the way, I apologize to all the physicists out there.
yeah, it's a beautiful, like visually, it's incredible, and it's a fun sort of like thing to do. But yeah, moon that piece of moon is traveling like a significant portion the speed of light if it only took minutes.
It's a long running tradition in cinema, Stephen, that
That physics doesn't matter.
cool supersedes
Hey man,
realism.
ask anybody that plays Dungeons and Dragons with me. The rule of cool applies. All right.
Well,
So-
from a physics standpoint, there's several points that are not in line with the science we know, and we can suspend our belief for a while. For instance, the donut shop, it apparently is open the next day. There's some bullet holes in the wall, but it's like 3 walls of this place is glass, and none of the glass is missing. So same thing with the department store, at least across the front of it is all glass, but they're back in business very quickly from a huge shootout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, opened up the next day.
Yep.
I mean, no crime scene tape anywhere to be seen.
Right. So hey, that doesn't make it a bad story because it's still a fantasy.
Right.
So there's
certain things out the window. Like,
And I
Right.
do want to say that one of my favorite things about how this season resolved, and obviously I haven't seen season 2 yet, but that they failed. The apocalypse
Horrifically.
happened, and I was joking around earlier, very early in the stream, when I was saying, oh, it's derivative of such and such, and I mentioned Heroes, and one of the sort of worst moves that Heroes ever made was that they show you an apocalyptic future early in that first season, and then by the end of the season they've averted that future. And so they always had a reset every time they went back to the show for a season. But if you're dealing with time travel and you want to have actual real stakes, then sometimes you have to let the world be destroyed. Yeah, and so that the stuff that has been established still holds, and so that there's realism and, as I said, stakes to the drama. And so I love that that's how it ended in this season. So yeah, I think it's a really smart direction they moved in, and so now I'm looking forward to seeing what future seasons bring, whether they're going to hang around in another time for a while, or if they're going to make another go at trying to avert the apocalypse. It's. I mean, you guys have a better idea than I do, but
absolutely, I have.
Yes, we do.
But all things being equal, I would say it's anyone's guess, just because.
John, I just want you to watch the first 10 minutes of season 2.
Well, see, and the problem though is, Stephen, that we're not discussing season 2 until
you're right.
the week after next. But I still have to rewatch a whole season of a show for my stream coming up next weekend. So
okay, well we've got. But I will say this: I agree with you completely. That I love how they got to the end of the episode, and it's oh well, I guess that happened, because I remember when I first started watching it, I was enjoying it, but Mom, did I do something funny?
Yeah, I guess that happened. Yeah, that happened. The end of the world happened.
Yeah, but I remember saying to Mom after watching a couple of episodes, and she's like, "Oh, you just got to wait till you get to the end of season 2." And she's like, "I'm not going to spoil anything." And I said, "Oh, I said something to the effect of well, we're certain it doesn't end with the apocalypse." And she's like, "You actually can't say that." And that was another thing that made me go, "Wait a minute, really? How?" And then
you can't make any assumptions.
Oh, we're not even gonna, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed the fact that the world went up in flames. They failed hard.
Not only did they fail, but they contributed to.
They caused it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And every one of them had a hand in it to some extent or other.
Yeah.
Which is just awesome.
That's oops. 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 Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, that happened.
And it's interesting, but it's interesting. I wonder if we should discuss sort of what it says about our culture at the present time, that there's a lot of time travel stories that have popped up on television over the past number of years. Outlander is another example, and also even going back to Lost, which was some years ago. But this idea that you can't actually change the past. You can try to, but you're just going to end up contributing to what was already going to happen. And I just wonder if that says something about sort of the futility, what we perceive as sort of a futility of our actions.
I'm just gonna answer Crack and Tacos' question real quick. Is the guy that played Dickon wearing shoulder pads, or is he that large? He is not that large. I mean, he is a large, well-muscled man, but he is not quite that simian in proportion.
No.
Right.
Yeah. Like
Well,
in,
no,
the,
no.
scene in the day that wasn't, you see him in the dance scene, and that's like actually what he looks like.
Right.
Without
Well,
all,
there's a scene where he has his shirt off, and you can see his physique.
Actually, they
his
shot
shirt
that.
off.
Actually, they shot that earlier. All the other stuff is after his operation that he had done for the show. You guys know that, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's not prosthetics that he's wearing. He got plastic surgery.
Yeah. I just want to make that clear. After.
Yeah, it's meant to look weird. And real talk, in the comic, it is different in that his head is literally attached to a gorilla's body. Like after his
wow,
like accident,
Frankenstein
literally transplants Luther's head onto the body of a gorilla.
Mm.
And see, that was the only thing that made me wonder, and it makes sense now that you say that, because I'm like, how come his whole body except for his head changed? but it makes sense now hearing that that's the way it is in the comic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was seriously considering getting those comics so I can see what comes up for the next season today.
So the
get some spoilers.
It's not the same. It's also not the same.
Okay.
Like they're kind of separate things, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I had watched part of an interview, and they said, like, I guess the first episode is, you know, kind of similar, but they kind of move off in their own direction following that. So
not surprised. Most adaptations are like that. So
yeah, I mean, like if you want them to be like, if you want the graphic novel, read the graphic novel.
Right. Oh, I mean, absolutely. It's just a different take on the
exactly.
same.
And like there are different things that work well for TV. Like I'm glad they're not trying to CGI Tom Hopper's head onto a gorilla the whole time.
Yeah, thanks.
Right.
Thanks for that image. Yeah, I'm glad we don't have that.
yeah, no.
And I'm not sure which episode it is, but in the episode where Reggie is, you see the woman who's passing away, and she's obviously very, very dear to him. Isn't she the one who's like the original owner of the violin that he gives Vanya? Isn't that?
Yeah. I mean, it appears to be, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it appears to be.
I wonder if he actually has like, okay, so has maybe like even the slightest twinge of guilt that he gives her this violin that was from someone who apparently meant so much to him.
I actually think he was very approving when she asked to take the violin, because to me it looked like the corner of his mouth looked like he was smiling to me.
Yeah. Yeah, like
so I mean, Reginald is not a warm person.
No. So maybe there was just a satisfaction that somebody was going to use it. Because it's a violin. It's not meant to sit in a corner and look pretty. It's supposed to make beautiful sounds.
Yes, that's my job, to look and sit in the corner and look pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of am tempted to say that that's a moment of him actually having some kind of emotion of like pleasure at seeing something that meant something to someone that he apparently did care about. If apparently that was possible, who knew? And this person who he's had to, this child that he's pretty much forced into not having any joy and being, stripping her of her power and some of her emotions and stuff like that, that maybe this is some small measure of peace that can be offered to her. But then I'm like, don't give him that much credit, John.
I know. It's like I just picked up on that one little moment that it just seemed like it was different from everything else in the series. But what a dangerous gift to give someone who's
power focuses sound. Because he obviously knows that when he's using the tuning fork and has the different glasses of water. He knows that sound has something to do with her powers, the focusing of sound. And I mean, it's almost hard to believe, and we know this is true, a violin that has 4 strings and a bow, the amount of beauty that can come out of that instrument when it's someone who knows how to play it is just exceptional. So he's actually given her a weapon that she could use in the future, and I think he almost had to know that. He may not have known she was going to be the perpetrator of the apocalypse. He may have. I don't know.
Stephen, I will not rest until you're wearing a monocle now.
Yeah, I okay. So maybe like shave so that I have the Sir Reginald and I can do the mustache, you know.
Mutton chops.
Hold
Yeah.
on. There we go.
It's like you can totally do it, Stephen.
I probably could, yeah.
Well, it will definitely go with the black silk waistcoat and top hat. You know. Yeah.
Hold on while I brush it back out. Yeah. Maybe, you know.
I foresee a future where you and us and a few of the other Here Be Dragons people like do an Umbrella Academy cosplay.
Oh, yes. Please. Yes, please. John, you have to do Klaus though.
Yeah, that. Well, I was about to say that personality fits, but I don't really know that any of them really would. So might as well just take my pick.
Okay, so I do recall Amy asking about Ben earlier, and we actually didn't go there because we
I
were
find it
talking
really
about...
interesting that like Klaus isn't able to basically summon up anybody else unless he's sober, but he's constantly accompanied by Ben, and that perhaps just speaks to their bond.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
they
well-
were very close.
Right. Well, they were partners when they talked about the partner thing. Ben and Klaus were partners. So, and maybe because he started numbing himself so young, he didn't really know that they could manifest themselves in him to the point that, for instance, in episode 10, when
Mhm.
Ben's
Right.
tentacles
Mhm.
come out and start working on the guys from the
The stormtroopers. Just call them stormtroopers.
yeah, the stormtroopers, and to a point that the others could see Ben. They didn't believe Klaus
I'm
earlier
sorry.
that Ben was there, but now finally,
Who will be fine?
I'm the shortest.
I'm so
No,
sorry.
I'm throwing it down right now. I will buy a schoolboy uniform.
I'm sorry. That
Yes.
I should not have laughed as hard as I did. I love you, Kate. I really do. But that was just hilariously. I'm sorry.
I want Kate to do Luther. Just make her walk around in a big gorilla suit. That would be awesome. So yeah, like
So is that going to be the cosplay in the next time y'all get together?
yeah, for HereBeCon.
Yeah.
Oh, John, would you play Pogo? Would you do Pogo?
Yes, I will do that.
Awesome. I'm totally derailed here, y'all.
Yeah.
We've been going for about 2 hours.
We're laughing.
But like,
I do want to point out
there's still plenty to say too.
Yeah, there's like so much, but one of my personal favorite moments of the show is when Klaus is pretending to be Five's father, and he's just like doing that crazy stuff. And he's smashing the snow globe against his face. That was just great.
Yeah, Klaus definitely knows how to manipulate people because he is so out there.
Yes. Well, what drug addict isn't like the greatest manipulator? Yeah, we'll all be. So he's really, really good at that.
Yeah,
the handler. Gosh, yeah. Oh yeah. Go ahead, Miss Betsy.
Actually,
I think. Go ahead, Stephen.
I was just going to say, look, it's been we normally go 2 hours. We're at 2 hours right now, but I still think there's more to say here. So, boo-hoo, everyone. John, Nessie, you're going to get paid overtime today.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
But we're going to start off with Stephen going off camera for a moment so he can go handle some nature business, and I'll be back. But feel free. I'm going to have my phone with me so I can keep up with the chat. But I'll be back in a few, okay?
All right.
Okay.
John, Nessie, you're in charge.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I got the keys. So any
The
other
keys to the kingdom.
Keys to the kingdom. I mean, we've got a lot of oddball relationships in this series. One we haven't talked about is Diego and his association with the lady cop. What?
Eudora Patch is her name. Eudora Patch. Yeah. Her first name is Eudora.
Yes, and it's like they, it's his kind of like he's like this like not cool Batman figure. He's just of the night, but when you really see what he's doing, he's like living in the back of a gym. He's living in his car. He's got like a police radio, and he's trying to do like the superhero thing on not a lot of resources, but and he's just got this really, really tight relationship with Patch. And you can, that they've been like an item on again, off again thing for all this time. And it's like that's the one thing that kind of keeps him from going down a much darker road with his vigilantism, is that he still has ties, with this officer, this really lawful good character, right, to keeps him from just going too far down that dark path, which would be pretty easy for someone like him to do. Yeah.
Special guest.
Hey, babe.
Hey, happy World Beard Day, guys.
Happy World Beard Day.
Thank you.
How you doing, Left Dad?
Doing good.
All right.
Doing good.
Oh, it's a shame Steven's not here to share in the glory of the beard.
It just breaks your heart when Cha-Cha shoots Patch in the back. She did get in there to free Klaus, who he's so skinny he can wiggle into that vent there. Oh, and of course that's where they've hidden a suitcase. So, and he's hoping there's money in it because or diamonds. That's another thing. Yeah, right.
He's been tied up.
That's what he wants.
And they destroyed his stash right in front of him. It's like they did all these physical things of torturing him, but what really just got to him was when they took his drugs and they just started, just destroying those. He's like, no, I'll tell you.
And he's still dressed in a bath towel all this time. He's in a bath towel the whole time.
Right. He got snatched up out of the tub. You know? And no
Well,
one-
he went. Yeah, he went to his room with a towel around his head and his waist, and I'm sure that's where Hazel abducted him from. And
Yeah.
he's no match for Hazel, obviously.
I mean,
But
how,
you know,
there's that gunfight going on in the mansion, and he's got his earbuds in. He's in his own little world, oblivious to what's going on, just back and forth. It's like a Scooby-Doo episode where
yes.
he's just missing the monster or what have you. He's just walking through this thing obliviously. So it's.
But another funny thing about that, though, is my brain just derailed. It'll come to me in a minute. Senior moment.
Klaus spends an inordinate amount of time in that bathtub too.
Oh, yes. And he goes to Vietnam in the bath towel. So, I mean, I guess they assume he just came from taking
A shower.
a bath or whatever facilities they have. And they give him stuff. They never even know he's there without papers or anything. They just envelop him into their unit.
He just dropped in the middle of their tent, in the middle of a fire, an alert, and everybody just like, grab your clothes, grab your gear, come on. It doesn't really matter that he was only wearing a towel because everybody's scrambling to get their clothes on and everything anyway.
Yes.
He's not, and that just speaks to, I mean, Miss Betsy, you've lived during this time, but how new recruits were always, they were just the new guy. They in these battalions, they didn't even learn your name because you were probably not going to make it out of the first couple of weeks you were there.
Right.
So seeing a new face, okay, it's just de rigueur for whatever's, what's going on.
Right.
They've got
just more cannon fodder.
More cannon fodder, new guy coming in all the time. Nobody wants to be there. I'm sure, everybody's had this, I'm not supposed to be here. Yeah. Neither are the rest of us. But here we are.
I actually
by the way.
That's actually a really interesting sort of counterpoint to his place amongst the family, where the fact that he shows up in the middle of this war and he goes, and someone new showing up, it's nothing's thought of it. It's kind of like the inverse of he shows up and nobody's surprised, and it's the inverse of him with his family disappearing and nobody's surprised. Yeah,
right. Well, and he's sober or near sober at that time, so he doesn't know that suitcase causes time travel until he arrives in Vietnam. So he has to be totally bumfuzzled about, where am I? What is going on? Because at first he probably does not realize he's time traveled. All he knows is he was on a bus and suddenly he's not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But later he learns.
It's great because just that was one of those moments in this show where you're like, wait, what just happened? Okay. When he opens that thing up and then he just vanishes.
Right. And then why didn't he hit the button again? Immediately, just hey, this is bad. I don't know, but at least they weren't shooting at me when I was sitting on the bus.
And is it just me or is that Kenny's mom on the bus?
I think that is Kenny's mom.
Kenny, who was having his birthday party at the bowling alley. I think the lady on the bus across from Klaus
might be Kenny's mom.
I think it's Kenny's mom.
I have to look at that again. I'll have to look at that again. She could be.
That's something to look out for on a rewatch.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, and Powder mentions that traumatized look on his face when he returns. This was so fascinating to me, just seeing this character who you kind of gotta feel like you've got a handle on for the early part of the season, and then this happens to him, and you can see that he's enormously transformed by an event that we haven't even gotten to see on screen, but the actor just sells it so beautifully, and it's immediately just sort of gut-wrenching to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, he's a tortured soul throughout, but losing, at least at that point in his life, the love of his life, this comes close to destroying him. He just, as it would anyone, even if you didn't have all this other, his PTSD went up a notch from his experience in Vietnam and Dave dying in his arms. It just,
it changed.
Which would be a horrendous.
All this is going on. Where's Ben? You know.
Well, you know, I don't really know if Ben traveled back with Klaus or not.
The implication later on is that he does travel through time with him, because I think Klaus says something to the effect of, like, you know, ghosts don't travel through time or something, and Ben's in the background going like, really?
But we don't see Ben
no,
in the past.
That whole montage is really, it's just about him having an actual real relationship with another human being, where, you know, before he's just all about himself, 100%. He is, you know, all about himself, and then he finally makes this connection with another. He falls in love, and he has the means to leave at any time, you know, that he wants to. The fact that he stays there, to stay there with Dan, you know,
Dave,
I do that all the time. Dan, Dave,
me too.
Whatever. Dave.
Well, it sounds like Dan or Dave or something.
Yeah. You know, that he's like Dorothy. He's got the power to leave at any time that he wants to, and he can just go home. But he's like, being in hell with this guy in the middle of Vietnam is better than where I came from. You know,
right?
You know,
because he does have someone that he connects with.
Yeah. He can just be whoever he wants to be. He's not burdened with, you know, having grown up as a Hargreave, and he's got all these brothers and sisters, and they've all got these expectations on them. He's completely unburdened from that. Goes back.
But I do see in Klaus, I think on the surface everything is about him, but I do think he really does care about his siblings. I think there's a little bit of a tender heart there, as long as he doesn't have to be put out. And part of that is because
everything he does is to protect himself.
Yes, but I know he tells number 5 he loves him, and I don't think he's being sarcastic. He may say it in a way that he can't be rejected, but I think there really is a caring heart in there, even though, and I think he comes off as just doing for himself, because most of the time he is high. And the only thing an addict wants is their next fix. That's the most important thing to them. So that makes it about themselves. But I do think there is some care there. I really do. I've watched it 3 times now.
I think the siblings do all genuinely love one another.
Yes.
I think one of the great examples of that is when Klaus goes into the VFW, and Diego goes in after him, and the fact that, you know, he can sense, you know, what his brother is feeling and going through, and so he's there to stand by him and protect him in that moment, and it's moments like that where I really came to it's like what I was saying. The season starts, and I'm not on Diego's side really at all because he just came across as a really sort of unappealing character. But it's through moments like that where his character really shows. And
I mean, they've all got that armor on.
Mm-hmm.
They all project that. I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me, or I'm going to withdraw. I'm not going to let anybody hurt me anymore. Go ahead, Stephen. Sorry.
So I'm sorry, I've been quiet. I've been doing some Googling. And yes, that woman is in several places. She is sitting across from Klaus in the bus. She is also Kenny's mom. I think she's even like in the bank at the Umbrella Academy when they're kids.
Oh yeah, she runs out of the bank. I know there's a large lady that runs out of the bank, but I can't remember if it specifically is her.
Calling it now. She's the key to everything.
Yeah.
If only they'd gone to little Kenny's birthday party.
Yes.
She's the Jacob of this show. She'll be popping up all throughout.
That actress, and I know I've seen her before, is called Heather Sanderson. And it's just funny that she keeps popping up, and I'm like, I wonder if it is. So there's theories around it now and stuff, of course, as people are wont to do.
Like John said, she's the key to everything.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, did anybody else notice the dartboards?
What, in the VFW?
Well, there's several places that there are dartboards. There's more than one dartboard in the mansion, which, in my opinion, is a little odd because how many dartboards does one family need? And there's one
always practicing their knife throwing ability.
Well, that's just Diego. That's not the rest of them. But I was going to point out there's a shot somewhere with Diego, and there's a dartboard. And of course, it has knives in it and not darts. But I just thought that it's something I noticed that was kind of odd. There's a dartboard in more than one place in the show, and it's kind of in odd places. So I don't know if that's a symbol of them being kind of a target, because that's almost always true. If you're a superhero, you are somewhat of a target. That's what happened between Leonard and Vanya. Even though she didn't know she had powers, he learned that she did. And of course, he had hatred for Reginald and the rest of the Academy members because of what happened to him when he was a child and how they rejected him.
Yeah, wasn't that attic scene kind of pretty creepy?
Yes.
When they find that attic and all of the memorabilia, and they've all had their eyes, like that's a next level serious.
It shows how disturbed he is. Yes.
Yeah, it's like that stalker that just turns. Well,
I know when Stephen was watching this, I watched this when it came out a year ago, and I kept trying to get Stephen to watch it because I knew he'd love it. Because you too, and he kept saying, "I will, I will," and but I'm like, I know you'll like this. If it's something I'm not sure about, I'll say maybe you'll like this. But this I knew he'd love, and. So he watched season 1 and season 2 in about 4 days or something. And he'd run in and he says, "I so want Leonard to be a good guy, but I'm afraid he's a bad guy." And I just sit there and go, because I don't like spoilers for myself. Some people don't care, but Stephen doesn't like spoilers either. So if I know something he doesn't, I just smile at him and keep it to myself.
All right. What the commission? What are they? They are like
it's impossible to know. It's
Or
impossible.
their full name is the Temporal Commission. I think they only mentioned the full name one time, but it's evidently like Star Trek. There's some group that plans to keep the timeline as it should be.
Well, I'm just going to refer to them as Time Lords, and so that they're
Yeah,
really
you won't make anybody upset by doing that.
But their method of guaranteeing the timeline is to kill people.
It's pretty.
and like not even like,
Yes.
and it's not like we're going to kill the bad people. No, I'm going to kill the owner of the butcher shop so his son takes over and doesn't wash his hands, and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that question, if you could go back in time and kill Hitler when he's a baby, would you? And my answer to that has always been, I wouldn't, but I might buy some of his artwork so he wouldn't get into politics.
Oh,
I wouldn't kill a baby.
apparently all of my supporters are revolting. You people, the people are revolting
They are? Why?
because I called them Time Lords. It's a Doctor Who
Okay.
thing. All the Doctor Who
Yeah.
people are coming for me right now.
Okay. Because, you can change history or rearrange history or make
And I will
history
say this
back to what you think it should be.
I'm going to talk about season 2 in a very sort of non-spoilery way, briefly, and just say, like, even knowing what I know from season 2, answering what is the commission is like, I don't know.
What?
Like,
I know.
you learn more, but like every question answered, every answer leads to like 17 new questions.
Yes.
Like, I cannot wait for John.
Where have I heard that before?
I cannot wait for John to meet AJ in season 2. Just
Mhm.
that's all I'm gonna say. Just I can't wait for you to meet AJ.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot. I can't wait for another 2 weeks. It's great. I can't wait.
Yep, it's going to be awesome.
Hmm.
So what else did we not talk about? I think we've kind of touched on literally every of the main. Okay, so I will say this for me. When I just finished my rewatch, which I finished this morning, I got to say I found Luther to be much more empathetic and sympathetic than I did the first watch through.
Yeah. He's got serious trying to fill Dad's shoes.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yes, and like
weight on his shoulders. Yes. And
like
he's stuck
everybody spends this whole season trying to come to grips with the pain of their upbringing. They're trying to finally come to grips with the abuse, for lack of a better word, that they suffered. And
Neglect.
yeah, and by the end of the season, I feel like they have all learned the lessons they need to learn to get there. So season 1, I feel like there's so much of them sussing out the emotions and going through them and talking to each other about them and reconnecting with each other.
Yeah.
That
they're at a place where they can start.
right. Season 2 will lets them build on that.
Mm-hmm.
They've done some healing, so to speak, and it lets them. Again, I don't want to get any spoilery, but yeah. And it might be that like I've seen season 2, and so I'm more sympathetic because of that as well. But I
don't know that I ever had any problem feeling sympathetic for Luther, and I think a lot of that came in with obviously knowing that something had happened to him to transform him, and then once you actually see what that something was, so I felt really bad for him from that perspective, and just seeing more of his layers pulled back as the season progressed just enhanced that
Just-
for me.
just the fact, he was the last one to leave. He never actually truly left, where all the
Right.
others would go out. But and it may have been part of his, because of his condition, but also the fact that he still felt like Dad needed him.
Right.
Oh, Dad still needs me. I'm still necessary to him. And then what really just got me was when, he found all of his reports, when he found all of those reports that he had spent for the last 4 years of his life alone in space, on the moon, on the dark side of the moon, like you can't even see the sun.
Are you ready for your physics lesson? There is no. Okay. There is no such, because what you said is wrong. There is no dark side of the moon. There is a far side of the moon.
There's a far side of the moon.
There is no
It
part
was
of
the
moon
title of a Transformers movie. Don't tell me that wasn't true.
Yeah, and
It's
a
also
Pink
the
Floyd
title of a Pink Floyd
song.
album.
And a Pink Floyd album. So.
Yeah, but like there is no part of the moon that never sees the sun.
Right. But I'm just saying, he's just as far away. He
literally sees Earth at some point.
Right.
Well,
so he can't be relative to Earth. The moon does not rotate. The same side is always pointing towards us. So if he can ever see the Earth, he should always see the Earth.
Well, he does talk about the sun coming up.
Exactly.
And turning it all to
so he
white glass.
He is probably on the edge between the near and far side of the moon.
Right.
Because he's seeing the Earth kind of on the horizon.
And he's, he feels like it has to have something, whatever is going on has to have something to do with, the mission he was on for his dad. Because it made him feel important. He was doing this. And he's like, to find out it had absolutely no value.
Right.
Just showed how much value he had. And it just, it got me.
Yes. Hurt your heart, didn't it?
And then he went to a rave. That's good.
Yes.
And took his shirt off.
Yeah, I'm
had a good
pretty sure
time.
that the producers of this show are not exactly sure what a furry is either, because they talked about furries, and I'm like, those are not furries.
No.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I like how the show that they'll do something really kind of hard-hearted, like Cha-Cha when she used a curling iron to cauterize the wound on her arm, and then it goes to number 5 stitching up his arm, but then he puts a Billy the Choo Choo Band-Aid on it.
Billy the Choo Choo.
Yes, which is like Thomas,
Right, but it's great.
And they just have little bitty absurd things like that after something, how tough they are using a curling iron to cauterize a wound. Anybody who's accidentally burned themselves using a curling iron is like, whoa, that hurts.
It hurts a lot.
Yes. But Billy the Choo Choo.
Yeah.
So there's absurd moments.
And I love that Klaus cross dresses like it ain't nothing but a thing. I love it. He's just as comfortable wearing his sister's clothes as he is wearing his brother's. So
yes, and he usually has his nails polished.
So I've heard Michael Sheehan say in an interview somewhere that he mostly shops in the women's department. And he also considers himself a straight man. Like, he was questioning at one time, but he's like, men don't do it for me. I tried, and it's not for me. But he still prefers to dress in what we would call women's clothes.
Right.
Well, he talks about how freeing the skirt is for him. It's very breezy.
But I'm just saying that probably was very helpful in playing a character that dresses that way. Just the fact that the actor portraying that is so comfortable in that type of clothing.
Yes, it's great.
Because let's face it, a lot of John, if you and I were like doing a movie, but we had to dress in women's clothes, we would maybe feel a little uncomfortable at times.
Yeah, which
Stephen, you wouldn't.
A little.
Well, yes, but we all remember Liana.
We all.
So,
I mean,
Yes.
we'll never forget Liana, but
that's
So
a
you
whole.
would be comfortable wearing that
is
in certain surroundings. Probably
Right.
not so much.
Yeah,
but
he
it's
was
like
uncomfortable going into the VFW dressed as Liana.
yeah, I've even said that I'd kind of be willing to go to Con of Thrones dressed up as end of season 6 Cersei with her badass, black, armored,
I want
get
to
up.
see you in that so bad.
But here's the thing: doing that at a convention is one thing, but would you feel comfortable
Walking to the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it would still be kind of a challenge. And the fact of the matter is that it shouldn't be. The whole thing is kind of BS in that regard. I've sort of talked in the Slack group about these sort of conventions of what's considered sort of masculine and feminine, and how it just kind of it serves just to sort of do damage, I think, to people who want to freely express themselves.
right.
But it doesn't change the fact that, that it would still be difficult because of the way I think we're all trained to think.
Yeah. Kelly points out that it's Robert Sheehan, not Michael Sheehan. They are two very different people.
Yeah.
My apologies. I didn't have it in front of me. Michael Sheehan, a large man who plays football.
Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty cool that, I mean, they give all of these, they give them their, like, quote, superhero names, but they never ever go by them. They either go by their number or like the name that mom gave them, but all of them have like a superhero identity name.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I was trying to pull out all the info, so I could write it on my little notebooks to make sure I got everything right. And I was like, really? So, I mean, Luther, I think, is the only one who ever gets called Space Boy. Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of like a nickname, the way that they portray it. It's like, oh, that's just a nickname that, he has. But actually to find out, oh, no, that's like his superhero name. So
another absurdity is the mask that Hazel and Cha-Cha wear.
I know, right?
What's the point of those? I don't really know. But when they get Klaus's special chocolate and then go to Miratech and wind up burning the place down but they're doing it while they're quite high. And one of her
Can I just say that was so much fun to watch?
It was hilarious to watch because they didn't know they were eating his special chocolate.
People are you're talking about the names that they use, the superhero names. Diego is apparently called the Kraken.
The Kraken.
And I don't know why that is, because it doesn't really I don't really understand it, at least not with his powers as it's shown in the TV show. It might be more related to the power set he had in the graphic novel. I'm not really familiar with the graphic novel. I've read about it, but I have not read it.
I wondered about that because to me, Ben would be more apt to be the Kraken.
Yeah, but
that's
he's
what I
called
thought
the
when I
horror.
was going through this.
But he's the horror.
And and number 5.
What a name to have placed on you. Oh, you're the horror.
Yeah. We've got Space Boy, the Kraken, the Rumor, the Seance, the Boy, which is number 5, the Horror, and finally the white violin, which Vanya doesn't get until obviously episode 10. She's not like called that throughout the series. So I think it's just interesting that even there, 5 really doesn't have an identity other than
Right.
5.
Thank you, Scott.
Well-
Scott points out that Diego can breathe underwater in the comics. So that makes a little bit more sense for him to be called the Kraken. And I think they even do reference something about him holding his breath.
I can't
It
remember.
It doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah.
But I think it's, I don't know if anybody noted what the plaque said on Ben's memorial with the statue at the top. It reads, "May the darkness within you find peace in the light." That's almost a horrible thing to say.
That
That he
sounds
is
like-
darkness.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's just, it's not rest in peace. It's like, you have darkness.
yeah.
No, it just,
He doesn't go to the light, though, does he?
no, he doesn't. And of course, during the argument, his statue gets damaged. One more thing showing how dysfunctional the family is.
Right.
Yeah, and it was somebody in that scene goes, and there goes Ben's statue.
And there it is. Yeah, I think it was Allison, wasn't it? Allison was talking to Klaus.
Yeah, it may have been. Yeah, and that's the whole scene where Pogo is trying to give this sort of, honorable, farewell to Reginald, and then Diego just comes in with, he was a monster.
Mhm.
Yes, he was.
Huh.
That's
Again, worst Professor X ever.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that we haven't covered yet? Panelists, chatters, anything that we that you need to make sure that we talk about? I'll give the chat a few minutes to come up with something. But I will say, like, this show caught me for a number of reasons, not least of which is of the brilliant way they use the music. I know we kind of talked about that at the beginning, but I want to bring it up again here at the end. Gerard Way is a musician, and this show has the fingerprints of a musician all over it. It really does. The way that his understanding of popular music, or like whoever is making the musical choices, their understanding of popular music and how to use those type of rhythms and lyrics to drive the story. I Think We're Alone Now. Run Boy Run is in there. Those are the two that I can think of off the top of my head. Don't Stop Me Now playing when they're burning down the lab. Like, don't stop me now because I'm having a good time. I mean, I'm not Freddie Mercury. I'm never going to even get close. But
we love our queen, though, don't we?
Yes, but like even the way they're framing the camera in those moments, it's just so good. And me loving music the way I do, and especially like music of all different genres. Oh yeah, this one too. Istanbul was Constantinople. Now it's Istanbul. Yeah, by what is it? 10,000. They Might Be Giants. They Might Be Giants. It's. I don't know, man. I can't wait for season 3 to see what incredible music they give us in that. Because not a spoiler to say they kind of continue to do the same thing in season 2.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Heather also points out the quality of the covers, because not every song is the original version, but like even if it's not the original version, whatever cover versions they have are incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
I will just say, as far as the music goes, what stood out to me was the opening with Vanya playing the violin, which is a version of various themes from Phantom of the Opera, which I thought was very well done. The composer for the actual score throughout is Jeff Russo, I think is his name. I did identify a couple themes, like the siblings have, there's a main theme for all of them, and a lot of the rest of it is a bit more subtle. I'd probably have to sort of zero in on that stuff on a rewatch. It's obviously I'm going to be more of a fan of paying attention to that than the song use, even though I do think that the use of songs is quite effective. I feel like it almost probably overshadows the score, and maybe that's where their focus is, and for the actual musical score they're focusing on just underscore and maybe not doing anything that stands out overly much.
Right. It's subtle. I feel like it's effective, but I feel like you're right. It's subtle.
Yeah, which, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I prefer musical scores that, I finish watching something and I immediately remember it. And that probably was not the case with this, but we'll see how it unfolds, with the music in the future. I will say though, I think they picked some instrumental pieces to go along with the song choices, the aforementioned Phantom of the Opera music, and there was one occasion where they used one of Beethoven's symphonies. I think it's either I can't talk. Symphony number 7 or 8. I can't remember which one it is, but that was really effective. So hopefully there's some more of that to keep me happy, along with the songs to keep Steven happy.
I don't like the way that they use music in Vanya's character anyway, as how she is changing and progressing and becoming more powerful or whatever. Her music changes along with it, becoming, more free, more less constrained. She throws more of her emotion into it, and obviously she gets better as a musician the more that she's able to put herself into what she's playing. So I think that's just really cool the way that they did that as well. This music as a metaphor for her power.
Yep. Okay. I just looked it up. It was Symphony number 7.
Okay.
I couldn't let that go.
I split the difference. Hi, Xander. That's my pup, Xander. Well, that's really Mom.
I was going to say, it doesn't look like your pup.
I know, right? Well, nobody brought up anything else in the chat. Is any panelists have anything else?
Yeah, so I will just say, looking at my notes, that I can only hope that season 2 is some kind of oh wait, those are the wrong notes. I apologize. No, okay, these are the right ones. I did enjoy the show. Okay, yes, and I'm sure season 2 will be even better.
Okay.
It is.
It is.
I agree. It is. So join us in 2 weeks for season 2 of the Umbrella Academy discussion. I hope to see everybody here then. You can join us next week. It's just going to be me and John, and I'm going to be talking to John about John things. So send in all your questions. Again, you know where to find me. All of our links for social media are down in the description. And to everybody who was here, thank you so much for joining us. Mom, you were fantastic. Thanks for coming on. John,
thank you for having me.
Of course. And we'll have you back in a couple of weeks. John, you've got in 6 days, you're doing what?
Yeah, on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'll be talking with Kelly about season 1 of AMC's show, The Terror.
Okay. Nessie, what you got coming up next?
I'm gonna be
Anything on the
recording.
books yet?
I'm gonna be
Anything on the
recording.
books yet?
I'm still waiting to hear back from the reschedule with Learned Hands, but that it's gonna happen at some point, and then I'm gonna get you on, and depending on which one might come first before the other.
So nothing's scheduled hard yet.
Nothing's scheduled hard yet, which I
Okay.
hate that. I hate the uncertainty.
It happens. All right.
Being in limbo is hard, isn't it?
I know. Soon as I know, you guys will know because I'm going to be putting it out there.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks to everyone for coming out. And you know what it is. Until next time, peace and be excellent to each other.